Hey guys. Hey, just wanted to check in with you today, see how you were doing. I miss you. I also wanted to make sure that you were all reading for 30 minutes every day. You don't get out of that, unfortunately. Um, you will be required to do that when we do our online. That's part of our lesson plans that we're putting together. So you might as well get used to it now. You've got 30 minutes of reading every day, Monday through Friday. So we have lesson 2. I'm sorry, I've been doing lesson plans all day. We have chapter 2, Queen Bee. And so we will begin. Pearl scooted out of the corner booth and yanked the magnifying glass from Mr. Bumfrickle's hand. I need to borrow this, she said. There was no time to be polite. This matter had to be dealt with immediately. What's going on? Mr. Bumfickle complained. Can't a man enjoy his breakfast in peace? While the dogs barked and Mr. Bumfickle muttered to himself, Pearl scrambled back into the booth. The creature was still standing on the windowsill, eating its prize. Carefully, so as not to startle it, Pearl lowered the magnifying glass. Then she peered through the lens. Holy guacamole, she whispered. This was definitely not a hornet, nor a bee of any kind. Pearl knew this because she'd studied them in biology class last year. Miss Bee had a special fondness for bees, on account of her name, and she kept a tray of specimens in her desk drawer. Whether a wasp or a nasty hornet, all bees possessed the following things: segmented bodies, little fuzzy insect legs, and furry insect faces. This creature had a tiny human body, 2 human legs, and a smooth human face. The only thing it had in common with a bee were wings and antennae. So what do you think it is? Take your guess. It's a fairy, Pearl said with a delighted squeal. Then she cringed. She shouldn't have said that out loud. But unfortunately, the wiener dogs were barking so obnoxiously that no one in the diner had heard Pearl's declaration. Now, sweetness and light. Mama won't let the bad bumblebee hurt you. Gladys spooned more hash into their trays. With tails wagging, the dogs slurped up their food. Pearl scooted closer to the windowsill, holding the magnifying glass as steady as possible, despite her trembling hand. The fairy looked like a girl, with tangled hair as green as spring leaves and skin as brown as tree bark. Perched upon her head was a little silver crown. A rush of excitement filled Pearl's body. She felt as if she might faint. It must be a princess or a queen, she said, once again much louder than she'd intended. Miss Bee, who was seated at the counter, pivoted on her stool. Did you say a queen? She pointed her fork at Pearl. Better be careful. If the queen is here, that means she's looking for a new place to nest. The rest of the hive will follow. We can't have a hornet nest in the diner, Lucy said as she filled a ketchup container. Hurry up and squish that thing. Kill it? No way! Don't worry, Pearl said. I'll take care of it. She needed a container. After setting the magnifying glass aside, she grabbed a salt shaker, unscrewed its tiny lid, and emptied the contents into the empty coffee cup. The fairy was busily munching on some pancake, so she didn't seem to notice the glass container hovering over her head. Easy, Pearl whispered. Easy. Then, quick as a wink, she set the salt shaker over the fairy. What's going on? Mr. Bumfrickle hollered, smacking his hand on the table. Where's my newspaper and my reading glasses? Dag nabbit! The fairy dropped her piece of pancake and began pounding on the wall of the shaker. It looked as if she was yelling, but the glass muffled the sound. As the fairy flew around the inside, she pounded her fists. Pearl raised the shaker ever so slightly and slid a napkin underneath. Then, with her hand cupped over the napkin, she tipped the salt shaker so it was right side up. As the fairy tumbled to the bottom, Pearl removed the napkin and quickly screwed the top back into place. It was a perfect fairy container because it already had little holes in it for air. Gotcha, Pearl said proudly. Mrs. B had been watching with interest. Let me take a look, she told Pearl. If it's the queen, then I'd love to keep it as a specimen for my class. Pearl pictured the fairy skewered onto Mrs. B's velvet display board between a black beetle and a monarch butterfly. I was wrong. It's not a queen. Holding the shaker in both hands, Pearl slid out of the booth. Gotta go, she said as she hurried toward the diner's door, her blonde ponytail swishing. Thanks for breakfast. Before her great aunt could ask any questions, and before Lucy, Mrs. B, and Mr. Bumfrickle could get a better look at the amazing creature she'd caught, Pearl made her escape. Best get rid of it, Miss B called, or the swarm will follow. Pearl didn't take a single bite of her number 6, but she didn't care. I found a fairy, she sang to herself. A fairy, a fairy, a fairy. She needed to tell Ben. He'd be so amazed. He might be at his grandfather's house or at the Buttonville Senior Center, where he sometimes volunteered. She'd check those places first. She was about to run up Main Street when a flash of red caught her eye. So let's think about this. Who in Buttonville wears red? Any guesses? Drat! Pearl grumbled. Arch enemy alert! Victoria Mulberry, dressed in her usual overalls, was walking straight toward her. It was tough being a kid in Buttonville, mostly because there were very few choices for friends. Victoria Mulberry was the only other girl who was Pearl's age. It would have been nice for both girls if they'd become best friends. They could have worked on school projects together, spent birthdays together, gone to the Milky County Fair together. Unfortunately, Victoria was not a free-spirited, fun-loving, adventure-seeking sort of girl. Victoria was a persnickety, tattle-telling, whiny, spoiled, mean, unpleasant sort of girl. And while some say that opposites attract, that was far from the truth with Victoria and Pearl. The salt shaker vibrated in Pearl's hands as the fairy flew around. There were no pockets in Pearl's shiny blue basketball shorts, so she clasped her hands behind her back. Hey, Victoria, she said, trying to sound as bored as a brain cell in Victoria's brain. I'm not talking to you today, Victoria announced as she stopped right in front of Pearl. Fine by me, Pearl said, which was the truth, because any day spent not talking to Victoria was a good day in her book. Victoria's red hair was so frizzy it looked as if she'd stuck her finger in a light socket. Don't you want to know why I'm not talking to you? She glared through her thick glasses. No, I don't. Pearl shuffled in place. The salt shaker tickled her palms. And by the way, you are talking to me. Just thought I'd point that out. I'm too busy to talk to you because I've got something important reading to do. Victoria held up a rather thick book. This was not unusual. She almost always carried a book. What was unusual was that she was walking alone without her mother and without her red wagon. Pearl glanced at the book's title, History of Dragons by Dr. Emerald Wu. Where'd you get that? Pearl asked with a gasp. She'd seen a copy of the book before, but it was owned by Metalmouth, the dragon who lived on the hospital's roof. How had Victoria found it? Ever since I saw that dragon, I wanted to learn more about them, Victoria explained. So I went to the bookstore, and Miss Nod special ordered this for me. I didn't know Dr. Wu was a writer. It was true that Victoria had seen Meadowmouth, but Pearl and Ben would never admit to knowing a dragon or a Sasquatch or any other creature they'd met over the summer. They'd each signed a contract of secrecy for Dr. Wu, and they would never break it. "You're still talking to me," Pearl said snidely. So here is Victoria and Pearl and the book. "I saw it," Victoria said, spit flying off her blue braces. "I'm going to learn all about dragons, and then I'll know exactly how to find it. And when I do, I'm going to take a picture and send it to the Buttonville Gazette." She tucked the book under her arm. What's that sound?" High-pitched buzzing began to stream from Pearl's clutched hands. It was as if a tiny storm had been unleashed inside the salt shaker as the fairy continued to fly around and around. Pearl shrugged. "What you got behind your back?" Victoria tried to dart around Pearl, but Pearl was quicker on her toes. "What's in that salt shaker?" "I caught a..." Pearl glanced across the street at the cinema's marquee. "A killer bee." Victoria recoiled. "Ooh, I'm allergic to bees." That was the best news Pearl had heard all day. "It's a big queen killer bee," she announced. "I'm thinking of setting it free." With a squeal, Victoria hurried away. "Nice talking to ya," Pearl called. Pearl checked the status of her captive. The fairy had stopped flying. She stood on the floor of the salt shaker, folded her arms, and glared at Pearl. "Sorry," Pearl said, "but I can't let you go. Not yet." So here Pearl is with the fairy. Then she remembered her mission to find Ben and share her amazing discovery. She turned up Olive Street, then took a left on Cedar Street and spotted him right away. "Ben!" Chapter 3 is called Another Secret. I will be talking with you later. Please message me if you have any questions. If you haven't got on Google Classroom, please do.